Dude, how about that? That countdown, that 30 seconds, that was pretty exciting.
Nice. There you go. There you go.
Mr. Harstead, how you doing today, man? It is crazy cold. It's going to be in big storms.
Doing all right. I'm prepping to go grocery shopping and make sure I have enough food for the weekend because I don't think I want to leave the house. We'll see if it warms up, but I think I'm gonna bear in as much as possible. How about you?
So, for me, I don't know. It hasn't hit me yet, but I'm realizing right now my kid's school got canceled. I know we're starting to plan on people working from home. 3 of my 6 appointments have canceled already. Tomorrow, we're actually going to interview, have one of the aldermen on the podcast. Originally he canceled coming to Roselle, which I'm like, that's cool. We'll go to you. And then all of a sudden they're closing the alderman's office tomorrow. So, it looks like I'm going to probably have a wide open day tomorrow that if I come into the office, I might be the only one.
Feel like my kid's a little bit younger, but I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to be like our parents and be like, when we were kids, they didn't shut down school. Like it'd be 4 inches of snow and I'd still have to go to school.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So anyone out there watching this, my name is Mark Ainley. I'm from GC Realty Development. Tim Harstead from Chicago Style Management. We're both property managers. We are planning to get together once a week, half hour, 45 minutes, depending on what we have to wrap out, and talk about items around being a landlord here in the Chicago market. And this might be the city, it might be the suburbs. We'll talk about both. We'll talk about CHA. We'll talk about rental license. We'll talk about squatters today that we're going to talk about. So if you guys want to ever drop any comments in the chat about things you want us to talk about, we have a list that we're running, but we'll always take feedback. How was that intro, Tim? Did I do it justice? Is that good?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. And I think for the people watching this now and or on replay, we're going to shoot for every Thursday, but I think the best place is probably going to be the Straight Up Chicago podcast page, right? To check for updates, and we'll post ahead of time going forward when we're going to be doing it. So just be on the lookout. That way you can be live and hopefully get some questions in and stuff like that if you have questions for property managers and what other people are doing. So I think this is a good opportunity for investors and landlords and all that to come in and ask some questions and get some information every week.
Perfect. And these videos will go to YouTube. And then, like you said, I'm going to start on the straightupchicagoinvestor.com website page, create a page for Chicago Landlord Secrets. So, man, talking about cold here, as property managers, you have hundreds of people that hundreds of units that you have to count for. We have hundreds of buildings that we have to figure out. What are some of the things now people might be watching this live right now, but they might catch this later in the winter, and should be evergreen type conversation. But what are some of the things that you guys are doing as far as preparing for this cold?
Yeah, I think one is not trusting not trusting anything. So right now my entire team's sweeping through all of our buildings in the basements. That's what we're doing a day out from this extreme cold. Just making sure that nothing. I guess to give a little background, if you guys don't know me, we manage a lot on the south side of Chicago and the southeast suburbs. So areas that are a little bit more crime-ridden sometimes and things like that. So we're making sure no one has broken into any basements. No one's that the heat's on. That nothing that we think is happening isn't happening. All of our vacants that have been vacant for a while, we're winterizing, and just making sure that the chances of something happening are down. So I think that's the big one, the 2 big ones. If you have people there and you have pipes in the basement, making sure you have, if there's not direct heat, that you have portable heaters set up. And then if you have let's say a single family house that's vacant, just taking the time to winterize it. It shouldn't take you more than an hour to drain everything and get everything done. And if it's going to be vacant for a few weeks during the winter, it's worth doing.
We winterized the house a couple of weeks ago, and then we're like, just leave it winterized until somebody moves in. Now, anyone that's been in a bank-owned property, they usually put tape over the toilet or whatever. But somebody that came through, I don't know if it was a realtor or their client, they took a big old dump in the toilet. So we had to deal with that. We literally broke the winterization, which we shouldn't have done, just to get that thing cleaned out. So it was horrible. It was bad.
I always question where people get toilet paper in those situations, because I've
I
seen that
know, I
too in
know.
Bangkok. Like that's what I want to know. Is like, I understand all that happened. I understand emergencies, but what happened afterwards? That's always been my question. I don't know if I ever want that answer to be answered, but that's always what goes through my mind.
I picture the guy walking out of the house with no sleeves. Like he ripped them off, like sitting on
Yeah.
the toilet, ripped them off. I don't know that from self experience, but you mentioned space heaters. It's funny. I walked in the office this morning, and there was about 50 of them just sitting there, waiting
Mhm.
for something to come up. You guys kind of stock up on those?
Yeah, same thing. I think you guys do. Stock up and have them. We rent them out to clients as need it, and we also have it for those situations. In Chicago, we have the few hours to get a building up to 70 degrees if a tenant's actually there. So sometimes the heat goes out at 8 o'clock at night, and even though we can get an HVAC guy there at 9, the parts store is closed and they can't do anything till 7 a.m. So we'll go and drop off some space heaters and get them through the night at least until the part can be picked up in the morning.
That is a big issue, especially if you have a boiler building. Those parts
Hmm.
aren't always readily available, and they don't carry them on their trucks. There's so many different types of boilers and parts, and some of them can be 50, 60 years old, right? So
Hmm. Hmm.
you do have the risk of not being able to get to the parts house until Monday, and you do have to continue to provide that place heat. One thing that we do is, and this is kind of something, just a trip for any landlord out there, is if you maybe we actually take home space heaters to the individual employees, and then if they're obviously geographically closer to different properties, but we'll just use messaging service. So we use Roadie.com to be able to, say you are at you just can't get over there for 3 hours because your new baby is taking a nap and your wife's at home. Like you want to get those, you could literally take those full boxes and message them over there, 3 4 of them, to the tenant, and that way they're getting it faster, and you're actually for 25. It's pretty cheap too, these message service. So I'll recommend this to anybody here to save your time of traveling across town here. I know from here, I'm in Roselle, the suburbs. We shipped something from Gary, Indiana yesterday. We grabbed keys from somebody. It was like $57 just to
Oh,
get the keys
nice.
there, and it gets done in a couple hours time. So that's a little kind of trick about space heaters.
Nice, nice. Never thought about a messenger service, but yeah, we're very similar with most of our guys in the winter. We'll carry them. If they see something that needs it, or if we run across it, who's ever closest, whoever lives the closest is who's getting the call. So yeah, that's a good one.
The one thing I found too that benefits is tenants are usually pissed, even though it's out of your control, and most people are good landlords, but they're still mad because heat goes out, understandably. But you don't get the abuse when
Mhm.
you bring the space heaters there from them. You get to avoid that when they just get dropped off.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, and this will be evergreen. It's January now, so hopefully most of us have already done this. But one of my favorite stories that I like to tell, when I'm talking to new clients and things like that. I had a client when I first started that was upset that his furnace kept going out, and this is getting, preparing for winter again, talking about it. Um, you know, in August, September, October, we're doing furnace cleans and checkups, and I think some landlords don't think to spend the time and put the money into it. And it's usually 85 to 100 bucks in my experience to have them all checked by an HVAC guy, and just make sure you're less likely to run into those issues in the middle of the night. Can save a lot of money, even if they come out and say, hey, it's a $300 part that needs to be fixed, or it's going to go bad. Doing that in September when the heat is sort of working is way cheaper than letting it go out in the middle of January. I had a client once that he told me this. He called me and said, "Hey, I don't know. We've been spending a lot of money on this furnace and repairing it. Since before you took over. But like mine, all I do is pay like 100 bucks a year, and the guy cleans it, and it's done." And I go, "Okay, well, who cleaned this one at your apartment?" And he goes, "Oh no, it's an apartment. I didn't do it for them." And it pretty much answered itself of that's why you're spending all this money. So it's spend a little bit of money on preventative maintenance every year. Put that into your budgets, and you're going to save from huge capexes early on.
Well, think about this. This is how I explain it to our team: is I love the preventive maintenance, and we have. I was actually have some data. I was going to put an article out there of like our spend on units we didn't clean versus we did. And every year there's a
Mhm.
hundred or so units that come in between September and November, and the owners say they did it already, and they just don't get cleaned. But we totally the spend on the call it 20% is far more than the 80% that we actually did clean. It's kind of crazy number every year. But
Mhm.
I definitely am a total believer in the preventative maintenance side of things with that, and getting the fired up the right way. What other things when it comes to cold outside the furnace are you maybe recommending to clients or your tenants to be on lookout for?
Yeah, and I think the dripping water one, I hope a lot of people know. The other one's keeping cabinet, like the sink cabinets open, especially if they're on exterior walls. We have some houses that were built in the 70s, and I don't know who the heck designed them. Maybe they just never went to Chicago or lived in Chicago in the winter, but they put the pipes on the sinks on the exterior wall, and if your insulation isn't perfect there, all of a sudden now that's freezing a lot, and the best way to solve that is just let the heat get there through the sink, through the cabinet, so keeping those open. Um, the other one I think a lot of people don't realize is, and again, this is something that unfortunately, as we talk about this January 22nd, it's probably a little late to do this, but for next year for everyone, just making sure your gutters are clean. If you let your fall gutters and all the leaves go into winter, um, and you haven't cleaned them in a year, and they start to get and they start to damming with the snow and all that stuff, then you have those icicles building, and those icicles sit there on your roof and start to do damage and start to sort of tear in, and the water gets in to the house. Now you have leaks. So that would be another one. That's a big one on our preventative list for stuff like that.
Yeah, I like along the lines of your cabinet because it's all about airflow at that point when the cabinet door is closed. But same with just doors in general in your apartment or house. Just kind of keep those open, keep the
Hmm.
airflow, especially if you have it's a basement, and even if it's a finished basement, it's still easy to close one of those rooms and it get much colder than it is the rest of the house. And you stop that airflow, and all of a sudden it's down to 30 degrees because nothing's getting in there, especially basement bathroom. So just
Hmm.
big on that as well too. The drip, I'm all about the drip as well too, and the drip does not have to be anything considerable. Like it doesn't have to be a steady drip. It's almost like drip 1, 2, 3, drip 1, 2, 3. So don't waste your water bill either. We've had people in
Yeah.
the past they're like, I got a $400 water bill. It's like, and they send me a picture of it running. It's like, no, that's not dripping. That's running.
The other one, tell your tenants too. Like a lot of our tenants, especially if you're in like A and B class areas, they might be getting the hell out of here for winter. And some people decide, hey, I'm not there. What do I need the heat on for? And this is, I guess, is for us as landlords too, for your primary residents. Like just because you leave and you go to Florida in January, your heat can't be off. You're risking those pipes. The heat's for your house as much as it is for you. So you got to have it, set at least 60, I would say, even if you're not going to be home for the week, to make sure that you're surviving the house isn't getting any damage or busted pipes.
Yeah, and we run into that with people that might move to the Midwest, or specifically here in Chicago market, from the South, or
Hmm.
from a different country. Even it's like they don't even realize that that's something that's even required, and they sometimes just think about it in dollar amounts versus versus actually what it's doing by heating the place. So yeah, we've had issues like that where somebody moves here from Texas, and then they go to their in-laws for a week over the Christmas break, and then all of a sudden they're surprised they have broken pipes.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So I guess that's the preventative stuff. What's your guys' tactics, or where you guys at in terms of once you have as many properties as I manage, and you manage way more than me at this point, you're probably going to get a busted pipe once or twice a year. Um, I guess what's the tactics once that happens? What's your game plan?
Well, the one more preventative thing before we move on there
Yeah, go ahead,
is
sir.
no. I just thought of it as you were saying that is, and I've been screwed by this at my personal house before. Is the water spigot where you leave if you
Mm,
leave that hose on there over the winter, then all of a sudden, I'm not sure the exact science why it happens, but it forces the water pressure back in, and that freezes kind of in the top of the hose in the spigot going into the wall. And that you get that pipe break that's like 1 foot inside of your basement wall, and that ends up being it's actually happened to me twice. One time, it wasn't even a hose issue. It was just it didn't. It was a house I owned that wasn't like they now have the water spigots that are what they call frost free or frost.
Yep, frost free. The other thing you can do is install a shut off inside the house is a good idea too. And it's a simple fix if you don't want to go through the whole. I just had that done when we bought our house because we were having issues with our spigot leaking, and we didn't want to deal with it at the time trying to actually replace it. So we just got a shut off installed for now to sort of deal with it. Funny story. My wife's actually mad at me right now for some not exactly the same issue, but our hose when it warmed up a couple of weeks ago to like 40 after the snow after that first snowstorm in November, I put in our on our pool on the cover, the winter cover. I put my pump in on it with the hose to get some of the water off, and I left it overnight, thinking, okay, I'll just grab it in the morning, and it froze. So now I have a pump that is frozen under ice with the hose on in the pool. So it does happen quickly. So
You wouldn't believe it. I have the exact same problem right now. That hose that's sitting there, and it got warm out for a couple of days. I was trying to get all the water off the top.
yeah, exactly. Uh-huh.
And I had this like vision that I was going to keep this clean all winter, and I definitely
Yeah.
But
See, it was good intention though. It was good intentions.
So when it comes down to you start going down the hole of all right, so now you do have a frozen pipe. I think the other thing that you can educate the tenants on in this part, on a day like today or in future kind of advance of deep freezes, is what you can look out for when you might have an issue. Because just because you have a frozen pipe doesn't mean you're gonna have a burst pipe. But there ends up being this limited amount of time between realizing you have a frozen pipe and it being a burst pipe that you have the issue. So, we tried to educate tenants and simply say, if you have any issue with your water pressure, if all of a sudden it's coming out super slow, that means you could have ice buildup. Or if your water's just not working at all, like report it right away. A lot of times that's when you wake up in the morning because maybe no one in the building was using water overnight, and now you might have a freeze somewhere in the line.
Yeah. And even slower, lower water pressure is the sign of it's not that bad yet, but there's something about to happen. So, if you turn on your kitchen sink and you're used to it, coming out a lot of it coming out, and all of a sudden it's half the pressure point. Make sure your tenants are coming because that's going to give you a chance to get a plumber out there with a heater or with something that can sort of thaw the line instead of letting it bust, and you can try to get it before you have a major issue.
Yeah, the biggest issue I ever had with that was that it was a city of Chicago one where the line burst between the B box that was in just past the sidewalk and my shut off that
Hmm.
was inside the basement unit of the guarded apartment. And but that water was coming in like around the pipe in the opening. Like so it was a real messed up thing. And we couldn't get the problem that we ran into is we got the city out there within a few hours, but then they broke the pipe, the shut off pipe, so they couldn't get that shut off. So they had to bring in special equipment. So that was a pretty big mess. And trying to get the city to clean that stuff up is a problem. So yeah, if make sure you're always looking out for these things in advance. The other thing that I'll ask you about or bring up is what you do once you realize you have a frozen pipe, right? So I mean, I made the mistake of just put a torch to it and all of a sudden, bam, it's going to work. And to do it too fast, to thaw out a frozen pipe too fast is a problem. And you might have, we might have the deep cold here in the next few days, but a lot of times you have these frozen pipes or these thawing pipes that actually burst when it starts warming up a little. So, I mean, tell me about kind of your experience about that because I know I've messed that one up.
Yeah, no, I think you sort of described it perfectly. It's really a matter of, and that's why you see the majority of the calls that are after hours people are going to get tonight and tomorrow are going to be my water stopped running. Once we pop up above 30 again or 32, hopefully Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever the weather looks like it right now, is when all of that stuff turns into, hey, there's absolutely no water, and it's because it's all flowing in the basement because of a pipe bursting. Um, so I think the key is to get it to warm up slowly, like you said, because that jump from -5 to 30 is enough to make the ice expand as it melts and cause a major issue with the pipe. So you want to get it slowly heated up, make sure the room gets to like what we call room temperature, I guess. If the room that the pipe's in is sitting at 50, you're going to have issues. So you want to get it up to, 60, 70, 80, not 80, 60 or 70, I should say. And then we'll use a plumber, have a plumber come by, and they usually have something that they can put on the pipes, some kind of heat source that they can slowly heat it up, and take it off and heat it up and take it off as they're checking everything.
Pipes and crawl spaces is a problem too. As another side note, so if you have a crawl space, that's you have a more sensitive situation.
That's when we call plumbers. I don't.
You don't
That's
go to
like
the
the
crawl
one.
spaces.
That's the one spot that I'm not. That and roofs I don't do. Uh,
Anything else on the cold that we should be talking about?
no. I'll transition it this way because as I said, my team's out right now. So we have found. I feel like Adam, if you watch ESPN or NFL Network as like things are happening on Black Monday and everything, and they have Adam Scheffler on and they're getting texts. That's what I feel like today because my team's all out looking for stuff, and they did find a leaking pipe, a leak coming into a basement from the first floor, where we have squatters. So now we have the issue of how do we get in to a situation because we have squatters there, and we have a leaking pipe. Luckily, my idea was just to knock and tell them your maintenance and just see if they let you in because they don't have the water was shut off. We had to shut the water off. So hey, we're maintenance. We're here to fix the pipe, and luckily the guy let them in. So as of right now, they're fixing the pipes, and the squatter is nice enough to let them in because he wants water back. So we'll see how this resolves here in the next 24 hours. But it's a good story to transition of what's going on in Chicago. If you want to give a little background, I know we've talked about it before. You guys have on the Straight Up podcast as well. The new law that took effect on January 1st, and then we can sort of talk about what's actually happening since it passed.
Yeah, added to it, if I think I'm saying this right, because I don't have it in front of me. Added to the Illinois Eviction Act was a law that gave police the right to arrest people for trespassing. The whole goal was to, now you call, the police show up, and they say that this is a civil matter and you're going to have to take it to court, which basically translates to you have to evict this tenant. And this it was only a small section added that was now supposed to take that moment where you realize you have a squatter, call the police out and have them give them the permission to arrest them or remove them. Yeah, I don't think any landlords even care if they get arrested. We just want them out of our place. We'll take the arrest, but to be able to remove them legally and you get your place back right away versus having to go through the entire process. Now, so far, I think it was end of 2025. I got super excited about this I think it rolled out. It got signed by the governor in June, and I got super excited about it. But man, quickly as I read the whole the change and started talking to some, I guess people smarter than me, they really said you're not going to see too much change from this right away because it's just too gray, and they're going to err on the side of just keeping this a domestic issue and a civil issue, and so far that's been true, right? I've sent you some news articles. I know you ran into it yourself, experience.
Yeah, we've seen it. I talked to a couple landlords that besides us that have ran into it in both Chicago and Lansing, where that they have had police tell them, hey, we can't do anything till the first, and then you call them back after the first, and the police go, oh no, legal said we can't do anything yet. So they're really haven't been on board. I know it's Channel 7, right? What is that, ABC or NBC?
ABC.
ABC has been super on top of it, and hopefully they can keep pressuring it because even the guy that wrote the law for the state, he lives in Chicago and he experienced it, and that's what's going on. Why he wrote it, and he's talking on the news and be like, "This is not what I wrote. This isn't the law I wrote. They're supposed to be able to do something. There's no lease here." Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad apples, or some bad apples. I should say a lot, but some bad apples when it comes to landlords that 10, 15 years ago tried to take advantage of this and say people that did have a lease but weren't paying were trespassers, and the police did some things and there was lawsuits and all that stuff. But it went too far the other way, and it appears as of right now we still don't have the help that that we were hoping for when they passed this.
I can sympathize with the police when they show up. Like, I think about it with my kids. I walk in the room and it's like, which one are you? Which one are you telling the truth? Which one,
Hmm.
I know you started shit last time. Is it you again? Like, so I run into that I can see where they come from. And the the risk of being wrong is so much greater than just trying to walk away from it. And the risk of being wrong is huge media attention for the police. Like, I do understand that, but there then has to be some sort of I don't know if they'll have to modify it, or some sort of holding period or something like that, something where the right decision could be made. If you put this instantly in front of court or something like that, in front of a judge, and judge made the call or something like that, like there just has to be some sort of change. And I've been encouraging people to make a big deal about this. So if this happens to you, I get people all the time that call me on this topic, and I say, just please make a big deal about this. Put this on Facebook, advertise, call up. I give them the number to the lady at ABC, give the email for Fox, and just make a big deal out of this, because there are aldermen that do want this solved. The alderman that originally proposed this, he wants this. He wants this to be fixed, and the state representative and all this stuff. They want to solve this, and I do think eventually this will be modified. But I think how long it takes to happen will be based on how loud people scream, I guess.
I'll throw this out there on the off chance that and any of these people are listening, aldermen or whatever. You go to any other county around us, and an eviction takes 60 days, and I'm talking about from the time you file to the sheriff coming out, the Will County sheriff or the Kane County sheriff, or whatever. It's 60, maybe 90 days. I think that we would have less of an issue if that was the case with squatters. If we could actually get them out, if that, like you said, if there was some kind of express thing to get them out. But taking it a step further, even the reason that it's so hard, I think, to find an apartment in some of these areas in Chicago where you know housing should be a lot cheaper and it's not, and it should be easier to get an apartment and it's not, is these landlords are super selective, because if you put the wrong tenant in your apartment right now, you're losing a year worth of rent. And most of my clients, and I'm sure your clients are similar. They don't have years of rent and mortgage payments saved up. They're living paycheck to paycheck, a little bit better than paycheck to paycheck, but they're not. Most of the landlords in Chicagoland aren't super rich with 12, 14, 15 houses, 100 houses that they have one or two extra uh, homes that they're renting out, and they're not making their mortgage payment when there's no rent. So I think that that's why it's so hard nowadays to be screened and to find an apartment, even because the standards have to be so high, because if you put the wrong person in and you give someone a chance and you have to evict them, you pretty much are a year behind on your mortgage.
Yeah, no, it's painful, and it's so sad that I've seen people get out of the real estate game altogether, because it's like the squatter won, and the guy literally gets them out and sells the property, and says, "I'm done," and goes back to that investing in the S&P, and that's a shame, because at one point that real estate investors always have these ambitions, these goals, and this is their future. I'm going to keep this place. It's going to pay for my kids' college. This is how I'm going to retire and do that world trip I want to do after 30, 40 years of owning this property. And it basically makes you want to check out when you run into, these are one of these scenarios that it's so tasking on a real estate investor.
I do think you're right, and I'll throw this out: if you're watching this on the replay, or if you're watching it live right now, and you have a current squatter situation, write it down. I think that, or comment below on the video, tell us about it, because I think that the more we can bring awareness to this, the better. And maybe we get a group of people that all have the situation and can get ABC7 to keep doing more and more reports. So comment, let us know sort of what your situation is if you have one.
They do have that show on A&E, Squatters, with that guy out of California, and I do have the producer's information. So if you got a fresh squatter going in, maybe I get you on TV, and he helps get people out. So we'll see. But so a couple things really, if you do have a squatter issue, or if you I guess if you show up one day and your properties occupied. A couple things that are best practice are recommended to do is obviously still call the police, but when the police meet you out there, a couple things you should have on you is a deed to the property, a copy of the lease that you use. So it's so you can compare it to the crap lease that the tenants have made up. The deed showing that you own it, and maybe a utility bill. Maybe if it's vacant, you're paying electric and gas. Show up with that utility bill that shows your most recent payment. So when they show a lease that they've been there for 3 weeks, you can show I paid the common bill yesterday. Was there anything else that you're supposed to show up with? I feel like I'm missing something there to kind of prove that you're the owner and this place was vacant.
I mean, generally speaking, what I've been asked for is to show that we can open the door. The problem with that is, a lot of squatters are smart enough to know that. So the first thing they do is once they get in, they're changing the locks. But that is, obviously have your keys if you can. If you can prove that you have possession, that helps a lot.
Yeah, and definitely the other thing is you and me were talking on another call earlier, talk about this is a lot of landlords are now putting up like Simply Safe type camera systems. Now they can always be broken into, but when you're on camera breaking the system, then that's at least some good evidence that you weren't supposed to be there, or someone's in there doing something they're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah. The other one that you can do, you can call ComEd or People's Gas or Nightcore if it's going to be vacant for a while, and when you shut it off, tell them, hey, I'm the owner of this property. I want to make it so that no one can turn this on unless you have consent from me. It's a little bit of a process to get it back on now. Once you do that, you have to go through some hoops. But if you know a property is going to sit vacant for a few months, whether it's, hey, I can't do a turn because it's winter and I need to do exterior stuff, or I just don't have the money to do the turn, or whatever the case is being. If you're going to leave a property vacant for a few months in the winter, it's worth doing, having it where that they can't call in and turn on utilities, and then having the utilities off the water, like we talked about winterizing and stuff like that. It's less likely that they move in when you have no heat, no electricity, no water. It's not impossible. I've seen it. I've seen them still do that in camp in a cold house without anything, but it's a lot less likely they're going to want to do it.
Yeah. So hopefully in later episodes here of Chicago Landlord Secrets, we'll have some good news. But I imagine we're going to be talking about this more again. So, I mean, any final words of advice for going into a crappy weather weekend?
No, stay warm. I already I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I'm a gardener. So in the summer, my yard's full of vegetables and flowers and all that fun stuff. So I just started my seeds a couple days ago. Just think spring, and it's the best way to get through it is have something popping up. I got some greenery in my basement coming up, and some pepper plants and lettuce and stuff like that popping up, and it's making me think spring's coming. So gives hope. That's all. Like you said, it's all we can do right now for the squatter stuff is have hope that it's getting resolved. So hope that spring's coming and it gets through the last. I always say Chicago's the greatest place in the world for 4 months, 5 months out of the year, and then we get like 3 months where it's like terrible. So you just got to get through it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Tim. So anyone, if you want more, follow us here on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, wherever you're watching from. If you need, if you want to talk with one of us about property management or tenant placement, Tim can definitely help you on the south side, south suburbs, southeast, southwest suburbs. We can help you most anywhere else here at GC Realty. Don't forget, check out straightupchicagoinvestor.com if you are just hungry for more Chicago real estate information. And otherwise, we will see you next week. All right.